Hello, everybody. Welcome back to News for Normies. I hope all is well with all of you guys. And before I even get into any news stuff, forgive the mess behind me. The wife and I picked up an electric fireplace for free, but it was a little banged up, so we're kind of giving it a little TLC before we go hook it up. As always, if you learned something new from this video, or you have a normie in your life that needs to hear some news outside of the corporate media machine, hit that like button, share this video with them once you get done watching, and I would very much appreciate that. So, I'm sure that anybody that's paying attention to news heard that RFK Jr. suspended his presidential campaign in like several battleground states, but also endorsed Donald Trump for states that he's pulling out of. So he didn't completely end his presidential campaign. He's still going to be on the ballot in like a lot of states, but not all of them. It's a weird move. One I don't know has ever really been done before. But the whole point of this was to basically make a message loud and clear that we all need to make sure that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do not win the presidential campaign this coming November. And I completely agree with that message. Don't agree with everything that RFK has said, but I agree with this sentiment. We're going to get into some nitty gritty about social media here for the next couple of little stories. Starting with the CEO of Telegram, his name is Pavel Durov, was arrested in France recently and charged with crimes of fraud, child porn, and non-compliance with French law enforcement. It seems like the corrupt justice system in France is throwing everything they can at him because they don't like him for some reason. Why, might you ask? Well, Telegram, to my knowledge, is an encrypted messaging app, which means that it is difficult for government actors to hack into it or create their own backdoor entryways into those apps to be able to spy on people. And therefore, authoritarians, like the French government, want to see that go away. Therefore, they had to arrest this guy, but if they were actually sincere with the crimes that they're alleging, then other tech CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey should also be arrested because platforms like Facebook Messenger and Twitter have been and are still used today for illegal activities as well. It has been documented that Facebook Messenger alone has group chats where human traffickers communicate with each other to traffic human beings. So, like, if we're gonna call a spade here, then these other people should be arrested too. Just saying. Speaking of old Zuck, he recently admitted in a letter, and I think also an interview with somebody, that the Harris-Biden administration pressured Facebook into censoring people about many different political issues, such as COVID during 2020 and election integrity, specifically the Hunter Biden laptop story. I have talked about this before, so I'm going to make it real quick. This controversy alone would have swung voters 11% toward Trump in 2020 had they known about it at that time, which would have secured the election for Donald Trump during that election cycle. That's why I call this news for normies, by the way, because media outlets, or propaganda outlets I'll call them, such as CNN, MSNBC, ABC, Facebook, Twitter before Elon Musk bought it, all of these outlets work in conjunction with the DNC and the deep state of the US government and didn't want that story getting out there because they knew it was damning to the Biden run-up. So That's reasons why I tell you people to share this, because I'm not controlled by them. And stuff like that directly affected the election, and look where it's got us now. You know, for the last 3.5 years, our country's been a shit show. The everyday American person is suffering for it, all because a couple people didn't want a story about a laptop getting out there. So, yeah, seriously, share this with people, because people need to hear it. Speaking of totalitarians, Brazil is going full totalitarian by shutting down X, formerly known as Twitter, completely. They're attempting to shut down Starlink, which is the satellite Wi-Fi network that Elon Musk owns. And they will fine people who use a VPN $9,000 for daring to hold on to some sort of privacy on the internet. But you know, this is all to save democracy or whatever bullshit the left likes to claim it's for nowadays. And speaking of propaganda, Kamala Harris recently put out a letter from a Tucker who stated that he could, quote, work together with her administration even though, quote, they don't agree on everything, end quote. So this letter was not from Tucker Carlson, by the way, but when they put it out, it was basically implied that it was, even though it wasn't. And this is dirty work that these people do to try to sway the election their way. You know, by claiming that America's top conservative is even willing to work with her. Like, no, it was complete. I don't want to say it was complete lies, because it was from a dude in like Georgia or something who was happened to be named Tucker that liked what she has to say. But it was heavily implied that it was coming from Tucker Carlson, and nobody from the corporate media machine even dared to correct it. Speaking of more of the corporate media machine, they are not your friend, by the way. Okay, quit listening to them. I only know about this stuff because I'm just plugged into this all day long. But Kamala Harris, who is the nominee for the Democrat Party, finally did a sit-down interview almost 40 days after her first announcement of running for president on the DNC ticket. And apparently the interview was pretty bad. It was... Now, full disclosure, I didn't watch it. I had no desire to. I torture myself enough listening to news stuff all week, so I wasn't going to subject myself to this even longer. But from what I have heard, it was very boring, and like she always does, she says a lot without saying anything, and didn't really, talk about any policy position she had. What I find more interesting and more concerning is the fact that she went that long without doing any kind of an interview or a town hall or anything that wasn't like a scripted event. And she's still out there being like, yeah, go team. She also had Tim Walz there with her. So, like, how can anybody... How can other world leaders take her seriously if she was to become president when she can't even do an interview with her own people, aka other Americans, without having somebody there to supervise her or whatever? Whatever happened to the whole girl boss thing, or forgive me for sounding like a complete racist here, but whatever happened to the whole strong independent black woman that don't need no man? Did she just decide to not identify as black that day? She really held on to her Indian heritage that day? What's going on here? The whole thing is screwy, and I seriously don't understand how anybody votes for her or supports her. But, she's not Trump, so there's that. Okay, whatever. Moving on. California is about to pass a bill, and I might be wrong on this one. They might have already done it. I don't even remember at this point. California is about to pass a bill that would give illegal aliens mortgage assistance with extremely low interest rates and no down payments needed to buy a house. Meanwhile, you watching this right now, you, my fellow American citizen, are seeing high interest rates for home loans, car loans, groceries are high because of stupid stuff like this, and the American people can't get any assistance from the government because of, you make too much money, or, you're just not eligible for some reason. Like, how many more examples of stuff like this do people need to realize that your government hates you and relishes in your suffering while giving free stuff to people that are invading our country and sending untold sums of money across the globe? I mean, full stop. And this isn't just the DNC I'm talking about here, because there were plenty of Republicans too that were all on board for the whole Ukraine spending bill, or what was that bullshit bill they tried passing a while back? The border security bill that only had like $10 billion for our own border security, but like $60 billion for Ukraine. There were plenty of Republicans that signed on to that as well. So, this isn't one party or another here. This is people that hate you versus people that don't. Oh, man, that's enough to drive you crazy. But speaking of crazies, another crazy dude, or not another, but a crazy dude was tased and detained at a recent Trump rally because he tried to storm the media area for whatever reason. So he tried climbing over like the metal barricades and fencing they had around the media people who were there, like filming the rally and stuff like that for the news outlets or propaganda outlets, whichever you prefer. What his purpose was, I don't exactly know, but it was another incident at a Trump rally. So the bigger picture here is, why is the security at Trump's rallies so lacking now? Now, granted, there were, a good half dozen or more security officers and police that were on this guy, but still, like, man, what is going on with the Trump campaign and their security lately? If I was Trump, I don't know if this is legal or not, but I'd be investing in some like private security from private security firms or whatever. And for you, the average American watching this, I know this is redundant, but wherever you are, always be aware of your surroundings, keep your head on a swivel, and pay attention to the small details of people acting weird, because crazies are everywhere, especially if you are someone who likes to wear a lot of pro-Trump merch around. I'm not saying don't let your voice be heard, just be vigilant. Speaking of more Trump news, a grand jury has now been impaneled for the Trump assassination attempt case. Rumors are also being spread that there might have been a second shooter. I'm not sure if that's true. I know how an AR-15 works. I have a couple myself. So it is very possible that it was only one shooter. So who will be charged with the crime in this situation is unclear. But in my opinion, this will probably just get swept under the rug, because I believe, and many other people similar to myself believe, that some of our own government agencies, such as the FBI and CIA, are more than likely culpable in this to some degree. Why is it that, the JFK assassination took place like almost 60 years ago, and that's still classified? Because the CIA doesn't want that out there, because it would, severely undermine the credibility of their agency, as it should. More news about Trump. He was indicted again by Jack Smith for the documents case in New York, like the fraud case in New York or something. I guess I I don't even know at this point with this dude. Jack Smith has Trump derangement syndrome to like an unhealthy degree. Uh, and he's doing this again somehow, despite the Supreme Court saying no, you can't do that. And also, I don't understand how this isn't considered double jeopardy in the eyes of the law. Like, you know, if I were to hit somebody with my car and it goes to court and I'm ruled not guilty, like, you know, in a criminal court, I can't be charged again with attempted manslaughter or whatever the charge was. In civil court, I guess maybe, because that's kind of what got OJ. But I don't know. What this boils down to is that the Democrat Party will stop at nothing to try and stop Trump because they are scared shitless of him. This also shows that any polls coming out that claim Kamala is up in popularity with the American voter are blatant lies and propaganda. So whatever you do, the American voter, do not get complacent. Go out and vote whenever you can. Do it legally. Don't go out and try and, vote in every single county you can, because we're not Democrats. We got to be better than that. And if you are not currently registered to vote, and you still have time, because I don't know how each state works, go register at your local Board of Elections, or go to voteforamerica.org. That is vote number 4america.org. I'll leave that in the description below this video. Okay. Almost done here. So August 26th was the third anniversary, for lack of better words, of the botched pullout of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. My heart and prayers go out to any of the families that were affected by that, because it didn't have to happen that way. It was complete incompetence from the Harris-Biden administration. But to honor the memory of the fallen service members, Donald Trump attended a ceremony in Arlington Cemetery to honor those men and women who died that day. And first, they were invited by the families there. They didn't just show up and was like, oh, I want a photo op. Like, no, some of the families invited Trump there. But you know who wasn't there that day? Neither Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris. So remember that, because it was actually during the presidential debate between Biden and Trump. Joe Biden claimed that Donald Trump dishonored World War II veterans by calling them, quote, suckers and losers, end quote. Well, if we're going to, call out anybody for honoring our nation's veterans, you now see exactly how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris feel about veterans of this nation, especially those who died because of their direct incompetence on that matter. So if you are a military veteran and still voting Democrat, I sincerely ask you how you justify that. Please let me know, either with a direct message or in the comments below. We can argue tax policy, okay, I guess. But the fact that 13 service members across several different branches died 3 years ago on August 26th because of the direct incompetence of the current administration, and yet you're still going to vote for them, how do you justify that? And yes, I am directly challenging your belief system. Let's not mince words about that, because I want you to think about that. 13 people died because of incompetence of our federal government, and they were just like, okay. So, yeah, I challenge you on that one, man. Or woman. Or they, them, z's, or whatever you identify as. Okay. And here, I'm going to challenge some other views and political beliefs here, too. So, I guess I'm just asking for it from both sides. Here in the past week, evangelical Christians are outraged that Donald Trump will not enact a federal abortion ban despite never claiming he was going to in the first place. He got Roe v. Wade overturned with the Supreme Court picks he had. So my Christian friends and viewers on here, that's about as good as you're going to get on a federal level. And I have a very simple, clear message to all of my Christian watchers and viewers on here. If you want the United States to end up like the Soviet Union that we learned about in history class, or like what is going on in Venezuela right now, or Brazil, like I talked about now, set this election out. If you want your groceries to become astronomically expensive, even more so than they are, or if you want your gasoline for your car to become twice as expensive as it is, or if you want, the federal government to crack down on people who just don't fall in line with them, set this one out. If you want people to be disarmed and then summarily, wrangled up by the government and put in camps like we saw with Nazi Germany, set this one out. Because the Harris-Walz campaign have already said they want to disarm people, crack down on misinformation, which we all know is just anything the government doesn't like. They want price controls on groceries, which I explained in my last video why communism doesn't work, what that will lead to, aka bread lines and people starving to death. So if you want that, if you sincerely want that for this country, and you're going to get hung up on one issue, set this one out. Now, I challenge you directly. If you want lower gas prices, lower grocery costs, safer communities, and overall prosperity for the nation, vote for Donald Trump. Because now, and like I talked about 2 weeks ago now, there are Venezuelan gangs kicking people out of their homes in Aurora, Colorado, in apartment complexes. If you want that to come to your neighborhood, set this one out. If not, vote for Donald Trump. Because our country has some big problems on their hands, and you being petty on one issue is going to cost us all a lot of pain and suffering, because you want to sit out one thing. And if you are so hung up on the abortion issue, go vote in your state elections on the issue, because that is where the fight is on abortion. Okay? Now, I also challenge you to, if you have a daughter about the age of 11 to 13 years old, and she goes off to Bible camp for a week and is raped by a male counselor, because there are wolves and snakes among all of us, and she gets pregnant, would you force your daughter at 12 or 13 years old to carry a baby to full term? Or would you say, hey, this might be a time where this would be justified? Because just like, taking the life of somebody when they're an adult, well, there's some context that needs to be added there. Did you just walk up to somebody in the middle of Kroger and shoot them in the face? That's not justified. But somebody kicks in your door in the middle of the night and has a gun or a knife pointed at your wife, that's justified to shoot that person in the face, because they are threatening the life of somebody. And I would argue it's a similar but not exact same principle as that one. I'm okay with the Reagan type exceptions. Rape, incest, life of the mother. Okay, cool. So that's where I stand on it. Not that anybody asked, but I challenge my Christian viewers too. Because I don't think it is morally right to let somebody, especially somebody, a girl at the age of 12 or 13, have to carry a baby to term because she was raped. Like, that's just, man, that is so messed up in so many ways. Okay, last one, and I'll wrap this up here. Recently this week, my wife and I both at our home, received an absentee ballot in the mail despite never requesting one. My grandmother did as well, and she was the one that actually texted me about this issue, so I'm addressing it here. If you received an absentee ballot in the mail and did not request one, well, at this point you've probably already opened it. If you did, do not fill it out. Keep it with the packaging, the envelope that it came in. because it's addressed to you. Do not fill it out. Keep it somewhere safe, in a gun safe maybe, and take it with you in November to your voting location. Why? Because if you go in person to vote and they say you've already voted, you can hold up the blank absentee ballot and say, no, I didn't. Here's the absentee ballot I got in the mail. I never filled it out. Then that causes a problem, throws up some red flags, and may even be grounds to cause a legal problem should the election be funky, which I personally believe it will be. So, I have rambled long enough. If you have either learned something new, or if I've somehow pissed you off and you want to let me know it, put it down in the comments section below. Or if you want to piss off somebody else, that's a great way to get people talking. Share this video with somebody that you think it might get under their skin. And with that being said, I'll see y'all next time.